Commander Alan Harris stood on the bridge of the USS Defender. His eyes were fixed on the large screen in front of him. The ship was quiet. Everyone was watching the same thing. A strange object had just appeared in space. It seemed to come out of nowhere, like someone had torn a hole in the blackness. The object was huge and made of what looked like crystal. It shone in the light of the distant sun. "What are we looking at?" Harris asked. His voice was calm, but his heart was racing. After 20 years in space, he had never seen anything like this. Officer Susan Wright sat at her station, her fingers moving quickly over the control panel. "It's not one of ours, sir. Not from Earth or any of our colonies. It's alien." The year was 2157. Humans had spread out into the solar system. They had built bases on Mars and mining operations on the moons of Jupiter. They had sent probes to nearby stars, but they had never found proof of other intelligent life. Until now. Harris touched a button on his chair. "All stations, battle ready. Don't fire unless I give the order." He turned to Wright. "Try to talk to them." Wright nodded and began sending messages in all known formats. Mathematical sequences, simple pictures, basic language patterns. Standard first contact protocol. Minutes passed. The bridge crew waited, tension growing with each second. The alien ship just sat there, glowing. "Sir," Wright said suddenly, "we're getting something back. Strange patterns. The computer is trying to make sense of it." The ship's AI worked quickly, searching for patterns in the alien message. After several tries, it found something. Words appeared on the screen. "Surrender your vessel and prepare for biological assessment." Harris frowned. Not the friendly greeting he had hoped for. "Send back that we come in peace. We are explorers from Earth. We wish to establish friendly contact." Wright sent the message. The response came back faster this time. "Surrender now or be destroyed. You will be assessed." Harris looked at his first officer, Ben Taylor. "Options?" Taylor gestured at the screen. "That thing is at least 5 times our size. If they want to fight, it won't end well for us." "The rest of the fleet is moving into position," said the tactical officer, Ron Moore. But even with all 3, ships were outmatched. Harris stood up. His crew needed to see him strong now. "We're not surrendering our ship to the first aliens we meet just because they asked nicely. Prepare defensive systems. Tell the fleet to form up. We hold our ground." As the human ships moved into a defensive formation, something strange happened. A second alien ship appeared. This one was smaller and looked different. Instead of crystal, it seemed more like a living thing, with curves and surfaces that shifted slightly. The new ship positioned itself between the human fleet and the crystal ship. "We're getting a new transmission," Wright said, surprise in her voice. "This one is... Wait, this can't be right, it's in English." "Put it on," Harris ordered. A voice filled the bridge. It was slightly musical but clear. "Do not attack the humans. They are not what they appear to be." Harris and his crew looked at each other, confused. "Who is that? Who's sending this message?" Harris asked. "Unknown," Wright replied. "It's coming from the second ship." The voice continued. "This is a warning to the collective. The humans are dangerous. Do not provoke them." Before Harris could respond, the crystal ship fired a beam of energy. It missed the Defender but hit one of the escort ships. The smaller vessel shuddered as its shields flared bright. "They're attacking," Moore shouted. "Edward's ship is hit." "Return. Fire," Harris ordered. "Target their weapon systems only." The Defender fired its laser batteries. The beams struck the crystal ship, but seemed to do little damage. The second alien vessel, the one that had warned the crystal ship, moved closer to the humans. It fired strange, swirling projectiles at the crystal ship. Where they hit, the crystal surface seemed to crack. "Sir," Wright called out. "Another message from the second ship. You must defend yourselves. Use your most powerful weapons. The collective will not stop." The crystal ship fired again. This time it hit the Defender directly. The ship shook violently. Alarms blared throughout the bridge. "Shields down to 40%, Moore reported. "One more hit like that and we're done." Harris made a quick decision. "Load the quantum missiles. Taylor, looked up sharply. "Sir, those are experimental. We haven't fully tested them. If we don't use them now, we won't get another chance," Harris said firmly. "Target their main body and fire." The Defender launched 3 missiles. They were small, but they glowed with a strange blue light. They moved faster than anything the crew had seen before, leaving trails of distorted space behind them. The crystal ship tried to evade, but it was too slow. The missiles hit in 3 different places. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, huge sections of the crystal ship simply vanished, not exploded, just disappeared. The remaining parts of the ship began to break apart. "Direct hit," Moore exclaimed. They're retreating." The damaged crystal ship was pulling away, moving back toward the tear in space it had come through. The second alien ship sent one final message. "You should not have been able to do that. The collective will come. Many more will come. Prepare yourselves." Then it too began to move away, following the crystal ship. Harris stood in the center of the bridge, watching the alien vessels retreat. His uniform was stained with sweat, and a small cut on his forehead dripped blood down his face. "Sir?" Wright said quietly. "What just happened?" Harris shook his head. "I don't know, but I think we just made 2 new acquaintances in the galaxy. One wants us dead and the other—" He paused. "The other might be trying to help us, or might be just as dangerous." He turned to face his crew. "Set course back to Earth. Maximum speed. We need to report this immediately." As the Defender turned, Harris continued to watch the spot where the aliens had disappeared. Something told him this was just the beginning. A storm was coming, and Earth needed to prepare. 3 months after the disastrous first meeting with the Galactic Council, the USS Horizon had become a lonely outpost of humanity. The small Earth embassy on Nexus Station consisted of just 1 floor in a massive tower, tucked away where important species wouldn't have to notice it. Kevin Bradley sat alone in the embassy's communications room, monitoring alien transmissions. As the mission's intelligence officer, he spent most days sorting through the public channels, trying to understand the complex politics of the galaxy. The universal translators helped, but the cultural references often left him baffled. His screen suddenly flashed red. An encrypted Valdari transmission had been flagged by his detection algorithm. The reptilian Valdari Empire was the most aggressive member of the Council, and lately, they had shown unusual interest in Earth's corner of the galaxy. Bradley's fingers flew over the keyboard as he tried to crack the encryption. Years of working for military intelligence had made him good at his job, but alien technology was a whole new challenge. After 20 minutes of work, fragments of the message appeared on his screen. "Primitive species, a resource-rich world. Military assessment. Minimal threat. Perfect expansion target." His blood ran cold as he read. The Valdari weren't just curious about Earth, they were evaluating it as a target. Bradley sent an urgent message to Admiral Warren's quarters. 5 minutes later, Warren strode into the communications room, still fastening her uniform jacket. "This better be important, Bradley," she said. He pointed to the screen. "The Valdari are planning something, Admiral. I think they mean to attack Earth." Warren's face hardened as she read the partial message. "Get me more. I need concrete evidence before I alert Earth Command." "I'm trying, but their encryption is advanced. I'll need time." "Time may be something we don't have," Warren said, grimly. The next day, Warren called an emergency meeting in the embassy's conference room. Jack Redfield looked exhausted, having spent the night trying to gather information from his diplomatic contacts. Melissa Grant brought stacks of data pads filled with her research. Kevin Bradley had dark circles under his eyes but wore a small, triumphant smile. "I broke through more of the encryption," he announced. "The Valdari are definitely mobilizing a fleet. Their coordinates match Earth's location. And there's more. They're keeping this operation secret from the Council." "Why would they do that?" Redfield asked. "Because official Council policy forbids military action against new member species," Warren said. "But the Valdari think we're weak enough that they can present the Council with a fait accompli. Once Earth is under their control, The other species won't risk war to free us. Melissa Grant cleared her throat. I've been studying their ship since we arrived. The Valdari use quantum disruptor weapons that break the bonds holding matter together. Their shields are designed to counter similar energy-based attacks. And our railguns? Warren asked. That's the interesting part, Grant said, her eyes shining with excitement. Their shields aren't designed to stop physical objects moving at high speeds. They've been using energy weapons so long they've optimized their defenses against them only. Warren leaned forward. Are you saying our primitive weapons might actually work? In theory, yes, Grant said. But there's a problem. Our current railguns aren't powerful enough to damage their capital ships. We'd need something much bigger. Warren's communicator beeped. It was a message from Earth Command. She read it and looked up with a grim expression. Earth has been tracking unusual energy signatures at the edge of our solar system. They think alien ships are conducting reconnaissance. How much time do we have? Redfield asked. Weeks, maybe days, Warren replied. I need to return to Earth. Immediately. Grant, Bradley, you're coming with me. Redfield, stay here and try to buy us time through diplomatic channels. Redfield nodded, though they all knew diplomatic efforts would likely fail. 3 days later, Warren stood in a crowded war room at Earth Defense Headquarters. Military leaders from around the world argued loudly about how to respond to the Valdari threat. General Susan Clark, head of Earth's Unified Defense Forces, pounded her fist on the table. We should evacuate as many people as possible to underground shelters. Their weapons could devastate our cities. Evacuations will cause panic, said another officer. We need to stand and fight. With what? Clark shot back. Our ships are toys compared to theirs. Commander Alan Peterson, a quiet man who rarely spoke during these meetings, suddenly stood up. There is Project Thunderbolt. The room fell silent. Project Thunderbolt was a classified weapons system, developed in secret after humans first discovered faster-than-light travel. Few people knew the details. Thunderbolt isn't ready, Clark said. The targeting systems still fail in simulations. It's our only chance, Peterson insisted. The basic concept is a massive railgun system built into the moon. It can launch a 20-ton tungsten rod at 99.8% of light speed. At that velocity, the kinetic impact would equal a small nuclear explosion without the radiation. Warren glanced at Melissa Grant, who nodded excitedly. Their shields won't stop it, Grant said. They've never needed to defend against kinetic weapons of that magnitude. Even if it works, Clark argued, we only have one shot. The cooldown period is 48 hours. If we miss or if they have multiple ships, then we better not miss, Warren said firmly. And we need to make that one shot count so much that they'll think twice about continuing their attack. The debate continued for hours, but eventually, Earth's leadership made their decision. Project Thunderbolt would be their primary defense. Every available resource would go toward improving its reliability. Far from the war room, in a secure facility, beneath the lunar surface, engineer Olivia Martinez received new orders. As the lead designer of Project Thunderbolt's targeting systems, she now faced an impossible deadline. 2 weeks to fix what we haven't solved in 2 years, she muttered as she read the message. Her team of programmers looked at her with concern. Is it true? One of them asked. Are we really about to be invaded by aliens? Martinez took a deep breath. Yes, and whether humanity survives or becomes a footnote in the Valdari Empire's history books depends on whether we can make this oversized gun hit its target. She turned to her computer and began typing furiously. The elegant mathematics of orbital mechanics filled her screen. Trajectories, velocities, gravitational influences. Somewhere out there, an alien fleet was approaching, confident in their technological superiority. They had no idea that humanity's primitive weapon was about to change everything. The alarm woke Olivia Martinez from a restless sleep at her desk. Red lights flashed across her computer screens. She blinked, trying to focus on the warning message. Proximity alert. Unknown vessels detected beyond lunar orbit. Her heart jumped into her throat. After 2 weeks of non-stop work, the Valdari had arrived sooner than expected. She grabbed her communicator. Admiral Warren, they're here, she said, her voice raspy from exhaustion. Warren's reply came immediately. How many ships? Martinez checked the long-range scanner data. At least 7 large vessels, probably warships, and 1 enormous ship. Leading them, likely their command vessel. Is Thunderbolt ready? Martinez hesitated. The targeting system was improved, but still not perfect. In simulations, they hit the target only 83% of the time. Not great odds when humanity's survival hung in the balance. It's as ready as it's going to be, she replied finally. I'm on my way to the command center. Meet me there in 10 minutes, Warren ordered. The Lunar Command Center buzzed with activity when Martinez arrived. Military personnel rushed between stations, their faces tight with fear and determination. On the main screen, 8 Valdari ships approached Earth in a perfect formation. Their sleek, predatory designs reminded Martinez of sharks. Admiral Warren stood in the center of the room, her uniform crisp despite the crisis. General Clark and Commander Peterson flanked her, arguing in hushed voices. We should fire Thunderbolt immediately, Peterson insisted. We only get 1 shot, Clark countered. We need to wait until they're closer to improve our chances of hitting the command ship. If we wait too long, they might detect the weapon and take evasive action, Peterson said. Warren noticed Martinez and waved her over. What's your assessment? Martinez took a deep breath. From this distance, we have roughly a 70% chance of hitting the command ship. If we wait until they enter Earth orbit, that increases to 83%. But Commander Peterson is right. The longer we wait, the more time they have to detect our weapon. A communications officer suddenly called out, Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Valdari fleet. Warren nodded. Put it on screen. The main display changed to show a Valdari officer. His scales gleamed metallic green in the light of his ship. A bone crest extended from his forehead, marking him as a high-ranking member of their species. I am Supreme War Master Krazathar of the Valdari Empire, he said, his translator giving his voice a metallic quality. Your planet is now under Valdari protection. Your resources belong to the Empire. Resistance will result in orbital bombardment of your major population centers. Warren stepped forward. This is Admiral Elizabeth Warren of Earth Defense Forces. Your actions violate Galactic Council law regarding new member species. Withdraw your fleet immediately. Krasthar made a sound that might have been laughter. The Council will not intervene on behalf of a primitive species with no strategic value. You have 6 Earth hours to surrender formally. After that, we begin destroying your cities one by one. The screen went dark. Arrogant lizard, Clark muttered. Warren turned to Martinez. How long until the Valdari ships enter optimal firing range for Thunderbolt? Martinez checked her calculations. Their current course will bring them to optimal range in approximately 2 hours. Then we have 2 hours to prepare, Warren said. General Clark, begin evacuation procedures for major cities just in case. Commander Peterson, I want the USS Defiant ready to launch. The Defiant? Clark asked in surprise. It's just 1 ship against their fleet. It would be suicide. Not for combat, Warren explained. For positioning, if Thunderbolt misses its primary target, the Defiant can attempt to draw their fire or create a distraction. 2 hours later, Martinez sat at the targeting console in the lunar facility, directly beneath the massive railgun built into the moon's crust. Her hands shook slightly as she entered the final calculations. The Valdari fleet had slowed, taking up positions around Earth like wolves surrounding prey. Her communicator chimed. It was Warren, now aboard the USS Defiant. We're in position, Warren said. The Defiant is on the far side of Earth from the Valdari command ship. They seem to be ignoring us completely. They probably consider 1 small human ship insignificant, Martinez replied. Their sensors show it has no weapons that could harm them. Their mistake, Warren said grimly. What's your status? Thunderbolt is powered up. Targeting solution locked on the Valdari command ship. We're ready to fire on your order. There was a pause before Warren spoke again. You realize we're about to commit to a course of action that might result in the destruction of Earth if we fail. Yes, Admiral, Martinez said quietly. But if we do nothing, the Valdari will take our planet anyway. Agreed. Proceed with the firing sequence. Martinez took a deep breath and began the final countdown. Firing in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. She pressed the button. Deep beneath the lunar surface, electromagnetic coils activated in sequence. A 20-ton tungsten rod, sharpened to a perfect point, accelerated through the 2-mile-long barrel. By the time it exited the lunar installation, it was traveling at 99.8% of light speed. At that velocity, the rod crossed the distance to Earth orbit in less than 2 seconds. Valdari sensors detected an object leaving the moon, but their computers classified it as debris or a small probe. Their shields, designed to stop energy weapons and conventional missiles, remained optimized for those threats. The relativistic projectile struck the Valdari command ship just below its central section. The kinetic energy released on impact was equivalent to a small nuclear weapon. The tungsten rod didn't just penetrate the shield, it passed through it as if it weren't there. It punctured the hull and continued through the entire ship, exiting the other side. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the Valdari vessel bulged outward from the center, secondary explosions rippling along its length. The ship broke, apart in a spectacular eruption of light and debris. On the Defiance Bridge, Warren watched in stunned silence as the massive alien flagship disintegrated. The crew erupted in cheers, but Warren raised her hand for quiet. "What about the other ships?" she asked. The tactical officer checked his readings. "They're just sitting there, Admiral. I think they're in shock." Martinez's voice came through the communicator. "It worked. It actually worked. The targeting solution was perfect." Warren allowed herself a small smile. "Well done, Martinez. Now we wait to see how the Valdari respond." The answer came sooner than expected. The remaining Valdari ships began moving, but not toward Earth. They were retreating, accelerating away from the planet. The communications officer turned to Warren. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from one of the Valdari ships." A different Valdari officer appeared on screen, his scales pale with what humans would recognize as fear. "This is Fleet Commander Zexval. We request immediate cessation of hostilities. We will withdraw from Earth space immediately." Warren kept her expression neutral, hiding her relief. "Commander, inform your empire that Earth is not the primitive, defenseless world you believed it to be. Any further aggression will be met with the full force of our weapons." After the transmission ended, Warren sank into her command chair. They had gambled everything on one shot, and won. The Valdari, with all their advanced technology, had never imagined that a simple metal rod moving at near-light speed could defeat their most powerful warship. They had laughed at human weapons. They weren't laughing anymore. News of the Valdari defeat spread across the galaxy faster than light. Within days, the Galactic Council called an emergency session. Jack Redfield found himself in the spotlight as the main representative of Earth, the tiny backwater world that had somehow destroyed the flagship of the most feared military power in the sector. The council chamber felt different this time. There were no whispers or laughter as Redfield walked to the center platform. Instead, he felt the weight of hundreds of alien eyes watching him with newfound respect and concern. High Counselor Vexnar addressed the assembly. "We have confirmed that the Valdari Empire launched an unauthorized military action against Earth, a clear violation of Council law regarding new member species. However, the manner in which Earth defended itself raises questions." Redfield stood tall. "Earth acted in self-defense against an unprovoked attack. We used the only effective weapon at our disposal." An elderly Zalorian rose from her seat. Ambassador Reltok, the four-armed alien who had first greeted the humans, moved with slow dignity. "The weapon you used, a solid projectile accelerated to relativistic speeds, should not have been possible according to our understanding of physics," she said. "Our scientists have always maintained that the power requirements and heat dissipation problems make such weapons impractical." Redfield smiled. "With all due respect, Ambassador, human engineers found solutions to those problems, solutions that the Valdari discovered too late." The chamber erupted in murmurs. A crystal-like being chimed in with a voice that sounded like tinkling bells. "Does Earth possess more of these weapons? How many?" I am not at liberty to discuss specific details of Earth's defense capabilities, Redfield replied smoothly. The truth was that Thunderbolt remained Earth's only operational relativistic weapon, and it would take weeks to prepare it for another shot. But the Council didn't need to know that. Back on Earth, celebrations continued in every major city. The Valdari retreat had united humanity in a way no previous event ever had. Old enemies set aside their differences in the face of this new perspective on humanity's place in the galaxy. Admiral Warren, however, had no time for celebrations. In a secure conference room beneath the Pentagon, she met with Earth's military leadership. The Valdari won't forget this humiliation, she warned. They'll be back, and next time they'll be prepared for our railgun technology. General Clark nodded. That's why we need more Thunderbolts. The engineers are already drawing up plans for a network of weapons platforms that can cover our entire solar system. And we need ships, added Commander Peterson. Real warships, not just exploration vessels. The Defiant proved its worth in the battle, but it's a scout ship, not a line vessel. Warren turned to Melissa Grant, who sat quietly at the end of the table. Doctor, what have your studies of the Valdari wreckage told us? Grant activated her tablet, projecting images of twisted alien metal onto the wall. The most interesting finding is their shield technology. It's incredibly advanced, but specifically designed to counter energy weapons and guided missiles. The concept of a simple kinetic projectile moving at relativistic speed simply wasn't in their defensive calculations. She swiped to a new image showing technical diagrams. They've had energy weapons for so long, they stopped defending against physical impacts beyond a certain velocity threshold. It's a blind spot in their entire defensive doctrine. What about the other Council species? Warren asked. Do they share this blind spot? Grant nodded excitedly. Based on the technical data we've gathered from our embassy on Nexus Station, yes, they all followed similar technological paths. While we were perfecting ways to throw things very fast and very hard, they focused on exotic energy manipulation. Different evolutionary paths, mused Warren. They jumped straight to energy, weapons, while we kept improving on the basic concept of hurling a projectile at an enemy. Exactly, Grant said. And there's more. I've been studying why they abandoned kinetic weapons centuries ago. It's because of their faster-than-light technology. The gravitational disturbances from their FTL drives make precise targeting of physical projectiles nearly impossible at long ranges. But our FTL drives are more primitive, Peterson said, understanding dawning on his face. Yes, Grant confirmed. Our drives create smaller gravitational disturbances. We can target physical projectiles with much greater accuracy. It's an advantage, born from our supposed technological inferiority. At the same time, light years away, the Zalorian Confederation was conducting its own analysis. In a vast research facility orbiting their homeworld, scientists pored over sensor data from the Valdari defeat. Senior researcher Zolvex studied the trajectory calculations with growing alarm. He rushed to the communication terminal and contacted the High Council directly. The humans didn't just get lucky, he reported. Their weapon was precisely targeted, and based on our analysis, they could do it again. On the Garn homeworld, military engineers were already at work. For centuries, the Garn had focused on gravity manipulation technology. Now, they secretly began researching railguns and mass accelerators, weapons they had abandoned as primitive millennia ago. Lieutenant Ryan Cooper, a young tactical officer aboard the USS Defiant, found himself unexpectedly promoted. His analysis of the battle and proposals for new strategies leveraging human weapons had caught Admiral Warren's attention. The Valdari expected us to fight like them, he explained to a room full of senior officers. Their entire tactical doctrine assumes enemies will use similar technology, but we don't have to play by their rules. He displayed a series of simulations showing small, fast human ships equipped with miniaturized railguns, targeting the weak points in alien vessel designs. Their shields are omnidirectional energy barriers, but they're optimized against specific threat types. If we can exploit their blind spots, the threats they've forgotten how to defend against, a relatively small human fleet could stand against a much larger alien force. Admiral Warren watched the young officer with approval. In Just 1 week. Humanity had gone from frightened newcomers to respected adversaries. Earth might be technologically behind in many areas, but in this one crucial aspect, they had the advantage. That night, alone in her quarters, Warren reviewed the latest communication from the Galactic Council. Earth had been upgraded from observer status to full membership, with all the rights and protections that entailed. The Valdari had formally apologized for their unauthorized military exercise near Earth space, a transparent attempt to save face. Warren smiled as she read between the diplomatic lines. The message was clear. Earth was no longer considered an easy target. The galaxy had underestimated humanity, and now they were scrambling to reevaluate. The aliens had laughed at human weapons, but that laughter had turned to fear. Sometimes, being technologically primitive meant you approached problems from angles the advanced species had long forgotten. And in the vast darkness of space, that different perspective might just be humanity's greatest strength. 1 year had passed since the day Earth fired its first shot against the Valdari. The anniversary was marked with ceremonies across the planet, but the mood was more somber than celebratory. Humanity had earned its place among the stars, but with that recognition came new responsibilities and dangers. Admiral Elizabeth Warren stood at the viewport of the USS Enterprise, Earth's newest and largest warship. Unlike the exploration vessels of the past, the Enterprise had been built for defense, its sleek hull housing 6 advanced railgun systems. Warren watched as the massive ship approached Nexus Station, now a familiar sight. "Admiral, we're receiving docking clearance," said the helmsman. Warren nodded. "Proceed." Jack Redfield joined her at the viewport. The past year had aged the diplomat, lines of stress marking his face. As Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council, he had navigated countless, difficult negotiations. "Ready for round 2? Warren asked. Redfield smiled tiredly. "The Valdari representatives will be there. They've been pushing for restrictions on relativistic weapons, calling them destabilizing to galactic peace." "Ironic, coming from them," Warren replied. "Any chance the Council will agree?" "Not likely. Too many species are developing their own versions now. The Zilorians already have prototypes, and the Garn are rumored to be close behind." This was the unexpected consequence of Earth's victory. The primitive weapon that had saved humanity was now spreading throughout the galaxy, creating a new arms race. The thought troubled Warren deeply. The Enterprise docked with a gentle bump. As Warren led her delegation through the airlock, she was surprised to see Ambassador Reltok waiting to greet them personally. The elderly Zilorian bowed with all 4 arms. "Admiral Warren, Ambassador Redfield, your presence honors us. The High Council is eager to begin the technology exchange discussions." This was new. For the past year, Earth had been the student, learning about faster-than-light communications, advanced medicine, and clean energy production. Now, for the first time, the Council species wanted to learn from humans. The Council chamber had changed. Earth's delegation no longer sat in the back, but occupied a prominent position near the center. Representatives from nearly 30 species filled the room, their quiet conversations creating a background hum. High Counselor Vexnar called the meeting to order. "We gathered today to discuss the Mutual Defense Initiative. Recent events have demonstrated that diversity in defensive technologies benefits all member species." Vexnar's gaze rested briefly on the Valdari delegation, led by a subdued fleet commander Zex Val. The reptilian aliens had lost significant standing after their failed attack on Earth. "The Zilorian Confederation proposes a formal technology exchange program," announced Reltok. "We offer our expertise in antimatter containment in exchange for human knowledge of relativistic projectile targeting systems." One by one, other species made similar offers. The Garn would share gravity manipulation techniques in return for railgun designs. Even the crystalline beings, who rarely participated in military matters, offered exotic material sciences in exchange for Earth's unique perspective on kinetic weapons. Warren listened with mixed feelings. Earth desperately needed advanced alien technology to protect itself. Yet she worried about spreading weapons that could devastate entire planets. She caught Redfield's eye, and he gave a small nod. They had discussed this possibility extensively. Warren rose to address the council. Earth appreciates these generous offers. We are prepared to share our defensive technologies under strict safety protocols. However, we propose an addition to the initiative. The chamber grew quiet as Warren continued. Any species receiving relativistic weapon designs must agree to use them only for defense of their own territories, never for first strikes or conquest. Fleet Commander Zexval hissed softly. The humans wish to restrict technologies they barely understand themselves. We understand their destructive potential, Warren replied firmly. One shot changed the balance of power in this sector. Imagine what could happen if such weapons proliferated without restraint. High Counselor Vexenar nodded slowly. A wise precaution. The Council will consider Earth's proposal. Later, in a private meeting room, Warren and Redfield met with Melissa, Grant and Lieutenant Ryan Cooper. While Warren and Redfield had handled diplomacy, Grant and Cooper had been busy advancing Earth's defensive technologies. The Zilorians were impressed by our latest designs, Grant reported excitedly. They couldn't believe we solved the heat dissipation problem with such simple materials. Cooper spread out a series of diagrams. We've developed new tactical applications combining their shield technology with our kinetic weapons. A hybrid approach that neither of us would have created alone. Warren studied the young officer. In the past year, Cooper had emerged as a brilliant military strategist, his ability to think outside conventional alien doctrine proving invaluable. "What's your assessment of the Valdari?" she asked him. Cooper's expression grew serious. "They're adapting faster than expected. Their newest ships have modified shields that can detect and track relativistic projectiles. They haven't solved the problem completely, but they're working on it." "And the non-aggression pact?" Redfield asked. "They'll honor it," Cooper replied. "Not out of respect, but fear. They know Earth now has a fleet of ships equipped with smaller versions of Thunderbolt. The balance of power has shifted." The meeting was interrupted by a message from Earth Command. Olivia Martinez, now head of the Thunderbolt Defense Network, appeared on screen. "Admiral, the lunar installation is operational. All 12 platforms are online and can provide full coverage of the solar system." Warren thanked her and ended the transmission. Earth was safer than it had been a year ago, but the universe had become more complex. Their primitive weapon had changed galactic warfare forever. That evening, Warren found herself attending a formal reception hosted by the Council. Alien dignitaries mingled with humans, discussing everything from art to zero-gravity architecture. The atmosphere was collegial, but Warren noticed how conversations quieted when she passed by. Reltok approached, offering a drink in one of her 4 hands. "You seem troubled, Admiral." Warren accepted the drink. "I never expected to become an arms dealer to the galaxy." The Zilorian made a soft humming sound. "Is that how you see it? I see something different. For millennia, Council species followed the same technological path. We became dangerously similar in our thinking." She gestured around the room. "Humans reminded us of roads not taken, possibilities we had forgotten. Your different perspective may save us all one day." "From what?" Warren asked. Reltok's 4 eyes blinked slowly. "There are regions of space the Council avoids, places where our standard weapons and defenses proved ineffective. Perhaps human ingenuity will succeed where our conventional approaches failed." The cryptic warning stayed with Warren as she returned to the Enterprise later that night. Standing on the bridge, she watched the stars through the viewport and thought about humanity's place among them. 1 year ago, aliens had laughed at human weapons. Today, those same aliens sought to learn from Earth. The universe was vast and full of dangers, but perhaps humanity's greatest strength was its different way of thinking. Sometimes the simplest solutions were the most powerful. As the Enterprise prepared to return to Earth, Warren issued new orders. The future would require more than weapons. It would need new ideas, new approaches to old problems. And in that arena, humanity was just getting started.